I'm Paul.
What have you done to him?
He fainted.
Yeah, but you made him faint.
But it's not like I set my phaser to faint.
You've got a phaser?
Oh, God. I really need your help. This is a matter of life and death.
Heads up.
See, everybody thinks that aliens gonna come down and take over the earth by having like massive technology, and they're gonna blow everybody up and evaporate everybody and eat our brains and all that kind of stuff. They're gonna come down here, get us high as hell, get us drunk.
They just came down for our weed. Because we have great weed.
Oh, yeah. But they got apparently, they got better weed. All right, their weed is funded by the government.
Well, I'm pretty sure they're going to do both.
Yeah, they're going to get a bunch of weed, smoke out and listen to Rush.
I don't know about you, but the first thing I want to do after a really long trip is just stretch out, have a bong hit, maybe watch some trash television. I guarantee you the aliens have spent the last 50 years since Roswell just going, Springer, Jerry.
See, you're going to be the downfall of humanity. Because you're going to be the first one getting high with an alien, thinking y'all buddies and up there eating Jack in the Box, and they're just going to be taking everybody's TVs and everything.
No. Cyrus is going to be the savior of humanity. Because as the aliens come in with their armada ready to take over, they'll see him and go like, wow, this is not even worth it.
It's a waste of time, man. What were we even thinking?
We needed this whole army. I'm pretty sure one small ship could have done it.
I can't help but think that that's not very nice.
No, he meant it in the best way possible.
In the best way you could think of to say that.
Let's not conquer Earth. It's just a silly flick.
It's all good, man. You want to sit back? Come on, we got Halo 3.
Some good story structure you got there.
Actually, the aliens would come down and be like, hey, man, fuck yeah, we just want your weed. All right?
That's what I'm saying. Totally. They're like, hydroponics? Wow, this shit is smoking.
We come in peace.
This is the only thing you humans are good at.
But, man, of course, we are talking about Paul. And the reason why we're talking about Paul in relation to weed and alcohol and all kind of things vulgar is because Paul's kind of a little nasty ass himself.
Plus, he's voiced by Seth Rogen, so you can't have a Seth Rogen discussion without talking about pot.
Well, it's not even so much voiced by Seth Rogen as he pretty much is Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
He's Seth Rogen in a CG alien suit.
But you know what? I didn't even know that until the end of the film.
Are you serious?
Yeah, really? There wasn't a single hint that it was actually Seth Rogen.
Oh my God.
Which is, I think, why I actually liked it.
Wow, you really do not watch television, do you?
I don't. No,
maybe you smoked out before you went.
No, I had no idea. I was like, because the whole time I was like thinking, wow, who is this guy doing the voice? And at the credits, I was like, Seth Rogen, really? I'm glad I didn't see that. Like, at the beginning of the film, I was like, all right.
You have seen other Seth Rogen films, right?
and he's one of those guys that it's like, film after film, it's one of those things where I'm like, he's starting to go into my bad people list as far as just movies I'm not looking forward to with him in it. Honestly.
Coles, do you not know who you were smoking out with before you went to the movie?
No.
That was Seth Rogen, man.
No, I did. Maybe that's why I felt so relaxed and comfortable.
Hey, I know that alien.
I guess one of the things you don't expect here, and what the two main characters don't expect, is that his alien, which looks just like every Gray from the Close Encounters era or the X-Files, who befriends the two characters, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. He's just kind of Seth Rogen. He's like, whatever. My name's Paul. That's between y'all. It's like, it's all good. I just want to relax. Come on. Stop freaking out. Stop tripping.
He just seems like the ultimate alien slacker.
Let's go see fish.
Yeah. In fact, that's how he got stranded. He came down trying to follow the Grateful Dead, ended up crashing. He was too high at the time. But no, this movie, it centers on two British ass nerds, and they have
those are the best kind.
Those are the best kind, aren't they? The most interesting kind.
Well, unless you live in Britain, and then you're like, I prefer American.
I'm surprised they weren't wearing like Doctor Who shirt. Honestly,
I'm sure they were. We just didn't see it, but they have come to America to seek the American dream.
Well, the American nerd dream.
Well, I was about to say, for a nerd, that's Comic-Con. Yeah. That's a holy grail right there.
I can't even get to that holy grail.
Keep trying, man.
Well, you know what? As nerds go, they had a good plan. You start out at Comic-Con, and you took a road trip to go visit Roswell, New Mexico, and Area 51.
The Black Mailbox.
Yeah, the Black Mailbox.
I dreamed of doing that trip until I actually went to Roswell. And I was like, wow, this sucks.
I know.
Aliens are bullshit, because there's no way they would have landed here.
Not until you have to hit that pump, you're like, oh, shit.
They don't even have good weed there, so there's really no reason they would have landed in Roswell.
Well, that's probably why aliens get stranded there, because if you get caught in the desert out there, ain't a gas station around for miles. So if you out of luck, even a spaceship,
maybe back in the 50s, Roswell was like Fire Island to aliens, but since then it's just kind of dried up.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
Coyotes and Roadrunners.
They crashed, started hitchhiking. The first guy pulled him over, said, "Ass, cash, or grass. Nobody rides for free." And they just stuck with ass. And they've been going with that the whole time ever since.
They were assed out. But so these guys, I mean, yeah, this is the nerdiest road trip ever, because after Comic-Con, they're like, yeah, we're going to hit, Roswell, Area 51, the Black Mailbox, all that kind of stuff. They get there, and it turns into an adventure. They get confused as being gay by some rednecks, chase them out of a malt shop. and right when they think that their night couldn't get any weirder, they see a car in front of them. Car crashes. They stop to see if somebody needs help, and walks out a little skinny midget with a big head, or what we call an alien.
and it wasn't
Camel Lights.
It wasn't Seth Green at the time.
Damn it! Damn you, Leon! We got to stop this old shared brain business.
No, what kind of alien technology are you using?
He's sucking my brain.
That would have been a far more interesting. No. I was like, wow, I kind of want to see that movie.
Except the last minute, they changed his voice.
Exactly.
Who is it? But man, this is basically E.T. for those of us who have grown up. I mean, if you grew up, and it's a lot of other things outside of that, but the way I look at it at first, because it's an amalgamation of a lot of geek things, and that's why it's going to appeal to a lot of people who love, geekdom in all its forms. But for somebody like me who grew up with E.T., loving E.T., cried my ass off at E.T. last year. I'm still crying. No, when I was a kid, cried at E.T. and then grew up later and still cried, realizing this ain't the movie I remember. It's like
Then he later cried at Mac and Me. And
that's a real movie right there, man. They perfected E.T. with that film. But
that's the only thing E.T. needed was some hamburgers.
That's right. Yeah, that's Ronald McDonald's best directed film.
What could be better than E.T. and they take a break halfway through to go, here's some McDonald's cheeseburgers for everybody. I like McDonald's cheeseburgers.
Give up some Reese's Pieces. I want a fillet of fish.
Yeah, but for somebody like me who grew up with E.T. and then later still have fun memories of E.T., but kind of outgrew it. The allure was kind of gone after childhood. This is the movie that is perfect for me, because it's like it's everything I loved about E.T., but it's also matured. It's like if E.T. It's almost like if E.T. grew up, moved in with Elliot instead of going back to the planet.
Yeah, right.
And they became stoners.
Yeah, learned fluent English and pop culture. Basically spent all day on the internet for 40 years.
Or basically spent all day living with Drew Barrymore. I mean, just really living, being her roommate throughout her entire career.
Yeah, being an alcoholic.
Trying every drug that you can. Just partying your ass off.
It's basically Roger from Roger the alien from Family. I mean, not Family Guy. From American Dad. Yeah.
But not gay.
Yeah, exactly. It's where he started out before he became a complete drug-addled alcoholic.
And realized he was gay.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's funny because you're saying that it is definitely modeled on its heart is E.T. for grown-ups. But
turn on your hot lights.
But its formula is the same thing that they used in Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead.
Right.
Edgar Wright's not here for this one co-writing, and you definitely feel his absence. No question.
Right. Sure.
But it's also clear that these two guys were involved in the writing of those films as well, because it's got that whole it's not a spoof of science fiction, but it does use referencing a lot. And I think Edgar Wright's where you feel him missing the most is that there's jokes that Edgar Wright would have said, you know what, this doesn't really fit in here. This joke, this reference you're making, it's not organic. It doesn't, why would you say that here? Whereas they don't have that voice in their ear, that angel on their shoulder. So sometimes it's just someone quoting Star Wars for no reason.
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. As much as it had the flavor of those first two movies, not quite the expertise. And I'm a geek. I appreciate references, but with this, I was several times like, guys, enough already with the references.
And you can tell that Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are geeks, but they also have a very special fondness for those movies from the 80s, where like any kid who are in their 30s today love those iconic films like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Back to the Future that defined science fiction, fantasy, and adventure at the time. However, they cheapen that funness by just having any random character in the movie spout out quotes that everybody has heard before. Where on the other hand, if someone like Edgar Wright had been doing this, he would have taken that love for those films and either created great dialogue, or clever situations, or characters that just have a lot of depth to them, which I don't think that they have here.
Well, you know what? I have to admit, at first I thought I was going to get a little annoyed with that, but I mean, honestly, the whole time just watching the movie, I had the biggest smile on my face. Because when I think about a movie like this, I go back and think about Fanboys, and honestly, to me, this is the movie that Fanboys should have been.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
And
No,
it wasn't.
you're absolutely right.
But I see what you guys are saying, but you know what? It never got to the point where it started to irritate me with the references. It seemed like they just fit kind of nicely in place, even though I can understand anyone else feeling like it's too much.
It never irritated me. That was the thing. I think Corey was more bugged by than I was, but
Yeah, I was.
I couldn't help but notice it. And the thing is, you didn't notice it or think about it in their two previous films.
Right, yeah.
Right. Here, I was like, okay, I guess whatever. But this film was screaming Cyrus. It had Cyrus written all over.
Sure.
It. Like I'm a big old X-Files fan. They reference all that stuff. There's a whole atheist subplot in here that has to do with Kristen Wiig's character, who joins them as a super religious nut who has to confront the concept of that there are aliens from outer space who are atheists.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this movie is almost an assault on Christianity.
And I almost forgot. There's several ELO songs that played lovingly
true.
here. It's like my favorite band of all time.
They totally made this movie for you.
They totally did. I know. I was like, man, I wanted to go up to them and just give them a big hug and say, "Are you sure we've never hung out?"
You know what? I think they knew it was your birthday.
Yeah, man.
It had to be what it was. I can also say, besides all the referencing, just some of the things that just made it not quite that A+ for me was they had I can think of at least one, if not a few others, just running jokes that ran too long. Like Kristen, the fainting, Kristen Wiig being somebody who was just cussing for the first time, so she was kind of messing it up. It's like, okay, it was kind of funny. It was certainly funny at first, and the next 2 or 3 times, but they just did it over and over
It
and
got
over.
awkward.
Yes, it's like, guys, this is not working. If you don't have anything for her character to do, then don't put her in this movie.
Yeah, and you know what? And I tell you why it annoyed me so much, all the references here. Well, for one thing, and I was telling Cyrus this, I've heard enough just Star Wars references alone.
Just
in
from
a lot
Kevin
of
Smith.
movies. But I was going to say, and that's exactly what I said to him, alone in a Kevin Smith movie to like last me for the rest of my life. And these are geek references that I keep hearing over and over again. There's nothing clever about them. The absence of Edgar Wright here means that, listen, Edgar Wright movies, they are geek films, but those geek references, they're not just cheap, quotes or slogans or whatever from a science fiction movie or a horror film. And what he does in these movies that's missing here is that either they take that and they make more dimensional characters out of the people that they're making fun of or spoofing in these geek genres, or it's centered around those specific characters. Here, if it had just been Edgar Wright and Nick Frost, who are the two British nerds here.
You mean Simon Pegg?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Had it just been them spouting those things, or if all the geek humor had been centered on them, that would have made sense to me. But for all the side characters in this movie,
they
to
spread
do
it
that,
out to characters where you're like, what? They're like Jason Bateman, who plays, a black ops agent who's chasing them, a Men in Black or whatever, who does lines himself. And you're like, well, he already established he thinks science fiction is for little kids earlier. So why would he do that? Doesn't even make sense. You're right. It's not organic at points. Even when it is funny, I got to admit the whole boring conversation anyway thing made me laugh out loud. But,
oh, you talking about he shot the...
See,
that's when I rolled my eyes.
That was one of the more obscure Star Wars references, though. I bet a lot of people didn't even get that. But, I think that what it does have that's in comparison with those films, and which is what everybody's going to want to know, is like how close is it to feeling being great like those were. It's got that same sense of heart about it. It has that same sort of, man, this is just good natured. It's fun to watch. You like these characters. You really feel the friendship that those two actors genuinely have with each other.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, you want to hang out with these guys.
Which is why, honestly, as far as the movie referencing, it didn't bug me as much, only because I had some like 3-dimensional characters there that these guys, they are buddies. They are there for their fantasy road trip. And of course, they're going to geek out. And that's what I kind of expected from it. It seemed like if it really felt natural because, as far as Nick Frost and Simon Pegg, those two are actually like the greatest movie couple in the longest time that I can ever remember.
Have they ever won
They
that
are my
MTV
favorite.
award?
They should. They should be like the best movie chemistry couple ever. Because
just best couple ever.
Period. And that's
they are a Hollywood couple now,
and that's exactly how I see them. And just seeing them on screen, it's like you're watching your buddies up on screen.
Yeah.
And there was never a moment where I was uninterested in their characters. And I thought, yeah, the biggest thing about this movie is it still has the heart that they easily bring to Hot Fuzz and to Shaun of the Dead. It's still very much there. Even with when they introduced the character of Paul, where with this movie I was really concerned. I was like, I love these two guys, but as far as throwing in this alien character, I'm hoping to God that he's not going to be so obnoxious that the film is going to lose me.
But he
and
fits
honestly,
right in.
and it did it. He did. He really did feel right in with that crew.
My fear with the trailer was watching every time I'd see it, the things that Paul would say. I'd be like, wow, that's so very obvious, and it doesn't look like they have anything clever for him. But you're right, he does fit in, and I liked everything he said. Matter of fact, there's so many great bits of dialogue and jokes in here. It keeps going. It's got a good pace. Plenty of laughs.
Are you an alien?
To you, I am, yes.
Are you going to probe us?
Why does everyone always assume that? What am I doing? Am I harvesting farts? How much can I learn from an ass?
What?
I'm sorry. What's your name?
It's Graham Willie.
And what's his name?
That's the writer, Clive Gollings.
Okay, cool. I'm Paul.
Paul?
Yeah, it's a nickname that stuck. My ship crashed on a dog. It doesn't matter. Look, if you don't help me, I could die on this road tonight.
Okay.
Okay, perfect, great. Okay, help me grab him. This man's peed his pants.
But I guess I found that I liked so many of the parts, and yet wasn't as thrilled with the overall package. Like,
go ahead.
It just all the things we talked about it not being organic. Like it's how does that expression go? It's not equal to the sum of its parts. Like so many little bits I thought were great, and yet altogether I was like, well, it's okay. Like I just found it too often. I found it predictable.
Well, can I tell you why?
Sure.
Let me tell you what you're thinking.
You tell me.
No, I tell you why. Because you're right. Nick Frost and Simon Pegg are great together. That's a given. I mean, almost now when they're doing anything together and they're in scenes together, you expect them to be able to deliver. But, and I don't want to compare this too much with an Edgar Wright movie, because it's not. This is directed by Greg Mottola, who did Adventureland and also did Superbad. It's a totally different director, and I'm not going to try and compare him to another director, except for the fact that if it were in the hands of somebody like, and you can't help but do it since Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are in it, if it was in the hands of Edgar Wright, these characters that are types that we see here would have been written more clever. I mean, this is they described it themselves as a caper movie. It's a chase film.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And along the way, you don't get any cleverness out of these characters. You get the two bumbling FBI guys, played by Bill Hader, and who's the other guy that is it
Joe Lo Truglio?
Yeah, something like and
it's not like these guys aren't funny, but
they're bumblers
it's bumblers, and it's almost too much. It's like you know what? I think you could have cut those two guys out of it.
But on top of that, you also get things like the rednecks. I mean, every redneck that you see in every movie, and I'm not asking for too much, but I mean, just a little more cleverness out of them. And then that leads up to things that we see all the time in a road trip movie, like the big bar fight. Which in this case, again, they go into a bar, and you even got the band at the bar. It's a country band playing like the Star Wars Cantina music, and I'm just like, holy shit, man! Give me a break.
I thought a lot of the side stuff, you're right, was too broad. It felt like all the Judd Apatow inspired films where they go to this group of comedians that we keep seeing in all these films who are all these side characters and go, you know what, just build your own character, come to us with us, and we'll work it into the plot. That's what their characters on the whole felt like. Whereas I didn't have any problem with the leads. I was like, you know what, there's not a moment I didn't honestly like them, like their dialogue with each other. I thought they were incredibly well drawn. It's just everybody else was a cartoon character in it.
Well, see, with the two agents, I honestly, I didn't think that they were all that bad, because I was actually laughing through a lot of their scenes, and with Jason Bateman thrown into the mix, I mean, I have to admit, he really stole the show when he was with those guys. I mean, just watching him, I was like engaged in everything he was doing, just being the bad guy. He did it so well, and when he interacted with the two bumbling idiots, I mean, it was the Three Stooges. I mean,
it was just
really
weird seeing Jason Bateman play a badass. And pull it off.
No, he did an excellent job. Yeah, he was fucking awesome.
I didn't think he could do that. I just didn't think. I love Jason Bateman, but I always thought this is a guy that's just more of a straight comedy. I mean, he's like he's a straight man, like on Arrested Development, that role he keeps playing, but he's still playing, obvious comedy. And here he's playing the super straight man.
He was the biggest surprise.
Like, I'm not putting up with any bullshit, and I will kill anyone.
Yeah, he was the biggest surprise, honestly, watching this, because I mean, immediately as soon as you see him on screen, you already know who his character is going to be. He's going to be Jason Bateman playing Jason Bateman. But in this, he really took that role and like honed it.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. Paul himself, the alien, because we talking about everybody in this movie except. If Paul was, he'd be like, "Hey, man, shit, the movie's named after me. Y'all talking about me? Hey, but Paul looks great, man.
He does.
He interacts well with all the actors there. They do a lot of close-ups on his face, and his skin and texture look real. And I was worried about that before too, because Paul was acting just niggerish through the trailers. He's showing his ass and mooning people, eating birds and just cussing and smoking. I'm like,
black people do eat birds.
You didn't know that, did you? Yeah. Hey man,
crow's feet and all that.
Put some Tabasco sauce on it. We eat anything. We just shoot.
You should put some mayonnaise on that thing.
That's your version of eating a dead bird.
Oh, come on, man. Mayonnaise make everything taste.
Put it between two slices of bread. Dead bird sandwich, but
Wonder Bread.
But Paul was, I want to hang out with Paul after this was done. I mean, looking at how the character was, Seth Rogen just being himself obviously translates very well to just even being a voice actor. I heard I heard Seth Rogen was actually on set a few times. I think they mentioned this at the screening.
Well, they did a full dress rehearsal of the film.
Well, he was on his knees and knee pads.
Well, they were doing the mocap for him.
Yeah.
And but they did it all with the actors so that they all had the feeling they knew how he was going to say the lines, yada, yada. And then when they actually filmed on location, he wasn't there.
Yeah, they had a different. Yeah, they actually had a different actor who.
Well, one of the bungling cops, that Joe Latruglio guy.
Yeah.
They said he was the one who dressed in, stood in for Paul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they have to do very close interaction with Paul. I mean, Paul is a major character in this movie. He's in most of the scenes, and apparently, they put so much money into Paul they couldn't pay the rest of everybody else to flesh their characters out. Because Paul is probably the most dimensional character in the movie. Paul's just cool.
Well, he is. Somebody said something to him, and he went, "Whatever, dude."
Yeah,
and that gave me the biggest laugh.
Well, he's not a nerd even. He's just a normal dude.
Yeah,
he's like that guy you grew up with, haven't seen in a couple years. He's got a good job, but not a great job. He's like, on the weekends, I like to kick back, have a couple beers, watch the game.
That's the thing about Paul. Paul is that dude that you expect to be like the nerdy type. You hear this guy's like a genius because Paul in this movie, he reveals that he's done everything, for all the major things that our country or even our world has done. Paul invented Facebook and fake titties.
You know what? I think about it now, but I think Paul is a pathological liar.
You don't think he did those?
Or he's Forrest Gump.
One of the two. And I can see that. But Paul is so, thing is, he's that guy that should be getting beat up in high school. He's that guy that shouldn't have any friends, but he's that genius to also somehow, by some miracle, just managed to be down as hell. Just real cool.
Well, I just think of Paul in this movie as like Ferris Bueller. I mean, he's just friends with everyone.
He's like real genius. He's like Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
He's like real genius, man.
Yeah.
He's like because he also sits around and talks to people about their problems. I mean, he's like a cool ass Dr. Phil.
Which is why I think like he is like his character really stands out because when he interacts with the characters, I mean, he really actually does bring some dimension to them. It really points out the things that we all as nerds deal with. I'm sure, and it just seems like that really make that whole cast.
So he's your hero.
Yeah, he is.
The anti-Paul.
Let's not talk about that.
Ironically, for a guy from outer space, he's really down to earth. I mean, he doesn't alienate anyone.
Damn it! We let him go too long. We should have stopped.
Pretty much
opened up that black hole, and
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be here all week. Try the veal.
Unfortunately, somebody poisoned the veal, by the way, and give it to him. But I mean, look, just looking at this, man, it really is a fun film. When regardless of any kind of complaints I'm putting out there, I enjoyed this film a lot. It's not enough for me to like boost it up to full price because I really wish that they had actually been a little more clever with this. Yes, going into it, looking at Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, I wanted more with them being there, and I didn't feel satisfied as much as I wanted to, but I did laugh a lot. I give it a very high matinee.
To piggyback on everything you're saying, I agree with you 100%. I will say it's better than I thought it was going to be from looking at the trailer. I was actually worried about it, and I was like, oh, good, I'm glad it's this movie. But yeah, the references were a little bit too much, like in lieu of more clever humor, and just being like, I don't know, like I said, there's so many places where it's predictable. I just kept wanting it to be just a little bit more daring and show me something new. At the same time, it's full of a lot of great jokes. and great humor and a good pace. It's just, so many different parts I like. Even the bungling cops, I might talk bad about them. It's like, I thought they were funny. I just didn't think they fit in this movie.
They were funny in small parts. There's a part where they're playing hide and seek. And I thought that was going to be terrible, but I laughed my ass off at that part.
Yeah, I know. I did too. I mean, they had so many great moments, especially them interacting with Jason Bateman. You get two idiots. You need a Mo in there to go like, what the hell are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Come here, porcupine. But
Why are you?
Leave him alone.
I'm right there with you. I give it a very high matinee.
I'm going to say I think I liked it a little bit more only because, I really was smiling throughout this entire movie. I really had a good time. This is probably like the one of the funnest road trip movies I've seen in a long time as far as a genre like road trip film. It's kind of gotten tiresome. And honestly, it was like hanging out with two buddies or three of my best friends.
Wait,
yeah,
and you did it every week.
Yeah, and the thing. Oh, do I? That's your job. Yeah. The greatest friends I ever had that I will never know.
Should I lose weight and increase my cranium size? What I need to do?
But no, I really had a good time. I can only imagine if Edgar Wright would have written this probably would have been better than Sex. But I have to give it a notch down because it wasn't, and I'm actually going to give it a full prize. I had a shitload of fun with this movie.
I basically agree with you, co-host. I think that most of the flaws that I'm thinking about when I'm discussing this film are in comparison to the Edgar Wright films. And I kept going, you know what? That's not fair to this movie because that's not what it is at all. And I don't think there were any flaws in it that made me go, yeah, I don't like that. There were just flaws that made me notice them. On the whole, though, I laughed out loud at least 30 times during this movie. And there were points that I loved that were like, God, I want to applaud at that. That was awesome. All I can do is give this a full price and admit, yes, it's a flawed film, to be sure. But man, I enjoyed the hell out of myself.
Yeah, anyone who's a fan of those of Nick Frost and Simon Pegg, I feel weird telling them, don't spend your hard-earned money seeing it on Friday. I'd feel stupid saying that.
Speaking of hard-earned money, this was the front page, so we get paid more for this, right?
Well, I was about to say, when we split the money, obviously you two took most of it. Because, because we didn't want to come across as too blatant, Somebody had to take the hit as giving matinees. Yeah. So, unfortunately, Leon and I drew the short straws, and you guys got the most money. You can take the heat this week. People, we got the whole page, website taken over by Paul for a week. So, yeah, let's go ahead and hear about how we sold out.
Well,
I had no idea.
We genuinely enjoyed it.
That's what we're paid to say. That's good that we're getting paid more because because of South by Southwest, I'm so busy I can only get paid to give 3 blowjobs this week. So,
and Alien Dick is the biggest dick of all.
Man, you can't complain. They gift wrapped this movie for you. They took your DNA and analyzed it to make sure they had the perfect movie for sight.
They did everything but actually put me in the film.
Exactly. The icing on the cake for you would be the anal probing. That's probably better.
Guys, this is too dangerous. I can make it on my own from here.
We are in this together, Paul. Tell me which way the little green guy went.
Why are we holding hands?
So we look like a family. Just a couple of regular guys walking down the street with a small cowboy.
Break it down, boys. Stoke the fire.
This is the most fun I have ever had.
Paul! No!
Do you think he'll be okay?
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I got it all under control.
What are you doing?
Just watch.
It's a miracle. Why would you do that?
I'm not gonna eat a dead bird, am I?